Like a bunch of nothing.
In your own like demiurge prison.
Yeah. No, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Go on, tell us your Tokyo story.
Yes. So I went to Japan for the first time this year, and I've always wanted to go since I was like a small child, right?
Mhm.
And Tokyo is like the biggest city in the world. It's huge, right? And it was shocking how, and not shocking, it's like I was expecting it, but like to actually see it in action, how efficiently the city was run and how I could like navigate it like as a foreigner, like the train
Wow.
system and stuff. I was like, because I
Wow.
don't really use a lot. We have like a very limited metro train system here in LA. And, I was very intimidated going into like Tokyo. I'm like, wow, this is one of the most probably advanced train systems in the world, most complicated ones. And I could navigate it decently. Like I only like fucked up one stop once. And then one time
Nice.
I got like the wrong ticket for the wrong train because there's different train lines. And they just like somebody popped out and was like, "Oh, you have the wrong ticket. Here you go." And then like told me where to go and then instantly refunded my money. And it was like done in under a minute. And I was just like, what just happened to me? Like, oh my God, this is so helpful. Like, thank you. Like, because you would not get that. I mean, you're like fucked. Like, if you were not that it's that complicated in LA, but I mean, it's just like it's a disaster. Like, I don't even go in the metro anymore because I'm afraid I'm gonna get stabbed.
Do you
So I
guys
got,
do you guys have public transportation? Because every time I've been in LA, we've been with people who drive and we've
yes.
driven everywhere. But is there public transport?
There is public transportation. There is like I said, a little bit of a limited subway system, and then there's a bus system. But it's pretty. It can get pretty dark. Like
Oh my God.
like it's like there's like somebody smoking meth right there, and you're just like
Oh, no.
like I don't want to be here. And then like just like
Yeah.
crazy people and
Yeah.
it can
That
get
seems
really
to be
weird.
that seems to be a trope in American cities. Like the last time I came was a year ago, and I came through Newark.
Mhm.
And I had to take the bus to because I my friend lives in Philly and my student flight came in, so I had to take the bus to the Greyhound station to get the
Mhm.
bus to Philly.
Oh
And
wow.
the journey through Newark I felt like I was in Escape New York or something.
Right.
It was
Right.
it was
Wow.
perilous and it was deeply dystopian. And like I feel like it's getting more and more like that in major cities globally now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
For
it's
sure.
but even in London now, it has that very, like, 70s Thatcher era
Right?
vibe.
Right? That 70s, like, dirty, like, dangerous,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
yeah, like,
yeah,
that's real, and
yeah.
it's not just LA either. I mean, I know that's going on in New York as well, and it's interesting to hear that's also going on in London, like,
Oh,
it's just
big
like
time,
but then
big
when I was
time.
in Tokyo, it was like, "I feel safe. This is great. I don't think I'm gonna get stabbed here," Like, "This is really
The
nice."
difference is
I
that
really
in
like it a lot. I think
the
it's cool.
70s, they did have disco, and I feel like
Yeah,
a lot more people were doing cocaine and
cocaine,
like
Yeah,
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 enjoying
yeah, yeah, yeah,
themselves,
yeah.
and there wasn't this like sort of
dry,
dry sober
Mhm.
cult sort of taking over
sober, yeah.
everyone, like
That's one thing,
lifeless
even though
thing.
we have a lot of love for LA, you guys have exported a lot of
Bad
yeah,
memes,
bad memes.
hazardous memes to the
Hazardous
world.
memes. The
Hazardous
sort of the
memes.
sort of what's it called, the granola goth culture or whatever.
Or even that's
Oh
even
my
kind of
god.
what the last episode of South
Granola god.
Park
I feel like
was
I'm a
about.
granola god. It's like, oh no, I didn't know that was a thing.
Well,
Wow.
no, I guess everyone sort of evolves into one eventually. It is whatever,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
guess my whole thing is like the edge seems to have been taken out of a lot of
Life.
counterculture in
Yeah.
that sense, in
Yeah.
favor of this sort of health and safety oriented, everybody has their green smoothie. And I
Right.
guess to an extent, I'm not against people living healthy lives, blah, 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 but like there is something amazing about being led by your daimon towards, I guess, the edge
Yeah.
and being willing to like go there. And it feels like so many, especially with young people these days, I notice so many more young people are less willing to, do anything, even if if it has like the slightest inkling of danger attached to
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah. And
Um,
yeah, life is danger. Like there are no guarantees, and that's something that people love, that illusion of safety for sure. for sure. And you trade a lot for that illusion of safety. Like people are willing to trade a lot for it, and it is kind of disturbing. Where you're like, oh, that's not good. Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of which, let's dive into the topic for today. We just watched your amazing 2001 Space Odyssey video.
Oh yes.
And yeah, I love it. I'm always so excited when you drop a new video essay because I know it's going to go into detail and it's going to give me a perspective on something that I love, that I might not have noticed. And yeah, I mean, some of the major themes in 2001 Space Odyssey are themes that we love to talk about here on the show. One of which being obviously the transition into a new epoch, which you obviously see at the beginning of the film, where you see the sort of astrological.
It's your favorite cinematic transition, I think. Is how you
yeah. It's so good.
You see the astrological alignment take place, and you see sort of the apes' consciousness leap forward, and then it sort of transitions into humans as we are now progressing into the 21st century. And yeah, so one of the themes obviously is a leap forward in consciousness. The second theme is the apotheosis of man, which is something that seems to be a major theme right now as well, that technology is evolving and people are starting to question what the human condition is going to look like in the next 100 years, 200 years.
Yeah.
So the apotheosis of man sort of ties into that theme. And then thirdly, artificial intelligence is another major theme in 2001 A Space Odyssey. And I see this film as being sort of intrinsically linked to our times, because I think Kubrick was I think all his movies were kind of pointing to this moment we're in now.
And Alien Life as well.
Oh yeah, Alien Life is another another major theme.
2001.
Yeah,
and super current at the moment.
Yes. So yeah, basically, I guess my first question is, one of the series that you worked on that I was a huge fan of was Greater Creators. And obviously Kubrick is a greater creator.
Yeah.
And he deals with
it kind of goes without
saying it. And he deals with these giant concepts that have to do with these leaps in our consciousness, our apotheosis, these really giant, massive ideas. And we seem to be in a moment in a zeitgeist that seems to be a culmination of these ideas. And I kind of wonder what your thoughts are on that, and what you see about 2001 A Space Odyssey and where we're at now.
That is a great question. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I feel like we are in a similar, like, he's definitely addressing things that are like very relevant to today. And that's the thing, is like he's also like, he made a universal film where it's just like, I want to make something that's like going to be relevant for all time. But I feel like especially today, it's like even more relevant. And some of the things though, it's like, so the thing though, that like there's like a divergent path. So in 2001 Space Odyssey, mankind has found something that's more exciting than war, which is space exploration. And so, not to say that we're not on guard, and we're not all friends and holding hands. There still is, separate nations and things like that. And Russia and America obviously have like some tension as well. Like they're not like, America's not sharing everything with Russia. They're like, oh, we found this monolith, we got to keep it a secret from them. So, but still, it's like we've built like a space station, and like everybody's on board over there, and it's super cool, and everybody's like getting along, even though we still have our weapons in our pockets just in case. Now that, like, we obviously we don't feel in our, like, in IRL that we still love war. We still love war, as like in a place right now where we've got like 2 like wars going on. And
maybe a third one looming, who knows?
Maybe a third world war. We don't know. Okay. Like, we don't know. But it looks pretty crazy. And it's like, oh wow, space exploration did not take off. And we're still just hating each other and fighting each other, and like not even, worried about all that. And so it's like, I feel like it's this really interesting view of like what could have humanity done And then where we are today, where it's like, oh no, we're still fighting like idiots, you know, like we haven't matured. Because that's the thing, like they've matured. And that was like a very Gene Roddenberry, who's another greater creator. Gene Roddenberry's like Star Trek is all about like, oh, like humanity like maturing and like becoming an adult. And that's like Star Trek The Next Generation is like, these are all stable, like well-balanced adults on this ship. And humanity in general is a stable, well-balanced adult. But
That
we're
was
not
one of the, that
we're
was
not
one of
there
the
yet.
things that I noticed about 2001: A Space Odyssey, because I saw it for the first time as a child, and I was kind of like, why are these people so like
Robotic.
and
Yeah.
like
Because
weird?
they basically would have to be
Yeah,
to do
to
that
do that
job,
job,
which is
yeah.
also what you
Yeah,
explained well in
yeah.
the video.
Yeah,
Yes.
but then now that I watch it with like my crazy wizard eyes as an adult, I'm like, holy shit, they're like individuated Zen masters. They're like well balanced. I
Yes.
imagine in this like future they have like these like, I don't know, machines like that, like I don't know, probably like can delve into their consciousness and like sort out all of their complexes and
Yeah.
like
Right.
basically balance them out. And I think you would need that. You'd have to have a certain sort of psychological makeup in order to
Oh
do
yeah.
well out there.
To go into deep space like that.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I mean, it's
yeah.
really interesting how Hal is kind of more human than they are.
Oh yeah.
You
Oh
know,
yeah.
because he's like freaking out and killing people, like going nuts, you know,
Mhm.
because he has to lie and he's not supposed to lie. And it's like, oh, poor Hal. And like, we did it to him, though. We did it to him. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not his fault. Like, at the same time, I mean, yeah, he shouldn't have killed those people, but at the same time, like, it was user error. Like, they were like,
Mhm.
oh, no, you need to be like really honest and like you can't hold back any information, but we also need you to hold back this information. And it's just like, you can't do that. But that's our society, and that's what society does to us all the time.
All the time.
Like
We
all the
gaslight.
time.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
just so much cognitive dissonance where you're just like, oh my God, like what the fuck? And I see why people go crazy. Like I understand it. And
I
it's
really Yeah, I really love that Kubrick didn't do this like massive, because I'm a bit of a Benny Gesserit Butlerian
Mhm.
jihadist.
Yeah.
Maybe not a
Yes.
good time to say jihad right now. But
I didn't even think of that. Like, but yes, I understand.
it was
Yes.
based of me. I was being based. No,
Being
was saying
based.
the yeah, like I am, and I tend to get quite alarmist about technology. But
Yeah.
I love how Kubrick kind of uses Hal as like a mirror to us. He's like, the reason
Mhm.
Hal is crazy is because of you. He
'Cause
could have
we're
very
fucking crazy.
he could
Yeah.
have very easily been like, oh, it's this crazy machine and it's this big scary monster, and sort of gone
Right,
in that
right.
direction. But
Yeah, it's
instead
not
he
it's
decided,
not a Skynet, you know?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
he's not a Terminator. He's
Well,
yeah.
just a
well,
computer.
bearing in mind what you said and how we are Hal and the instructions given to Hal are society
Mhm.
and what he did, and he was more human than anyone by disobeying those and killing people.
Yeah.
Do you think that Hal had free will or
That's
not?
a good question. That's a good question. That's a good
Because this is
question.
also kind of like very relevant to I think what a lot of even neuroscientists and people are talking about in New Scientist and some articles and stuff I've read recently.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that people are very much bringing in free will back into the philosophical question again. I think
Mhm.
it's a very
Mhm.
dangerous idea because you
Well,
need kind of the idea of free will to basically just cobble together reality
Yeah,
and be able to
yeah.
yeah.
function.
We've kind
But
of opened
the
up the
actual
Pandora's box of philosophy.
Yeah.
but yeah, sorry, answer please answer the question.
Yeah, yeah.
Does he have I mean, that's something that I mean, I would say yes. Um, but at the same time, like I talked to you, Angie, about this earlier. It's like I've been thinking about the idea of free will a lot lately.
Mm,
And I know, like you were saying, like it's interesting that like there are like new scientific studies coming out and all sorts of things. And Jake, I really want to hear about like what you've read recently, and
mm.
hear your take on things. Um, but like within the context of the film, I would say yes. If this was a real thing, I don't know. I might say, I don't know. Like, I don't know if free will exists. Like, I'm really struggling with it a lot lately. I've been wrestling with this idea. And a lot of it is thanks to Alan Moore. You know,
Here we
like
go.
Alan Moore is always fucking with my consciousness. Like,
Mhm.
I've gotten so many wonderful things from this man. He
Yeah.
is just such a
Yeah.
treasure. He's such a wizard. But I think I talked about this last time I was here, but I read his book.
Jerusalem,
Yeah.
yay! Oh my god, yes, we're big fans, huge fans, like
It's
massive fans.
it's still fucking with me. Like this
Yeah.
book, I read it like years ago, and I'm still just like,
Yeah.
oh damn, Alan, you
Yeah.
really brought up some good points in there, and I keep
Yeah.
thinking about them. Like, oh fuck.
We passed like a flock of pigeons the other day, and there's a specific spot. If you've read Jerusalem, listeners, you'll know what we're talking about. But there's a specific spot outside of our flat where there's just always pigeons.
It's a
Yeah.
statue that all the pigeons seem to just
Go
culminate
there.
to every
And
time.
I was like, what the
he's
fuck
the lord
is
of the pigeons
he's
or
like the lord of
something.
the pigeons. And I was like, what the
Yeah.
fuck's going on there?
I
And
was
Jake
like,
was
there's
like,
definitely like an upstairs connection
yeah,
going
he
on
said
there.
it was a
Yeah.
vernal. He said it was
Oh,
is
yeah.
that it? Yeah.
It's a vernal of,
Yeah.
Yeah,
of
yes.
reality in some
And I was
fashion.
like, holy shit. Like, yeah,
That's
it
so
messed me
funny.
up. It totally fucked me up.
That's so good. That's so
It's I
good.
feel like, you know how in like the Kabbalah, like old school, like, you know,
Mhm.
rabbis always say that you shouldn't study it until you're like 50 years old
Mhm.
or 60 years old and you've done your work and you're
Mhm.
kind of entering the twilight of your life and you have
Yeah.
time to contemplate the higher concepts and you're kind of ready to kind of ascend. I
Yes.
feel like Jerusalem kind of is a book that you should wait to read later on in life because I feel
Yeah.
like if you read it while you're still in samsara mode, it
Mhm.
kind of messes you up because I'll be like at work trying to do work and then all of a sudden
I
I'll
don't
be
know.
contemplating like the upstairs and whether time is real and like
It's the thing
Right,
where,
right.
he writes such the most probably compelling
case for the afterlife.
world design and everything for the afterlife, how
Yeah.
it works, the ins and outs of it, the bureaucracy
Yeah.
of it, everything. I think
Yeah.
is just utterly brilliant and
Yeah.
fascinating.
And it's because he's at that point in
Absolutely.
his life now where he's probably
And
contemplating, you know.
in line with what I would say is like the humor of the universe, which is like irony in lots of ways,
Yeah.
and other things where like things don't make sense in the real world, but then actually in this larger picture of things, it
Mhm.
all of a sudden makes a lot of sense. And I think
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a really compelling idea, but at the same time, I do still keep coming back to like, even I think is one of the main characters is one of the gang is
Mhm.
that poor girl that drowns in the river,
Oh yeah.
going after her dog. And then it's
Mhm.
sort of like in reality, in the real world, where this idea is still very much could be, it's a nice idea, but we don't know
Mhm.
if that's like actually the case or not. Like,
Mhm.
is that this poor girl died at like 5 years old and drowned. And there's also lots of other terrible, cases not in England where things happen like that on larger scales.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of like, I can't imagine all of those people are led to this bigger, grander belief or whatever, or this grander thing in the universe. Or maybe they are.
Mhm.
Maybe that's kind of how it fits in. But that's kind of what always brings me back to like, yeah, this is nice and it's compelling. And it is the most compelling thing of the afterlife ever. But it is still just like a story.
Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta like remember all those other things that do actually ground it back into like, it's a nice philosophical framework. But yeah,
Mhm.
it can't fix all of the
I think that your
holes.
heart found something in it and you're too afraid to grasp onto it. I think you should go full schizo and embrace this new cosmology
Full
that has
eternalism.
go full eternalism and embrace this new cosmology that has been given to you by Alan Moore. Like
I really enjoy too that he, talks about reincarnation, and he's like,
Mhm.
well, even if you are reincarnated and you don't remember your past life,
Mhm.
then that's not really fucking you. So like, there's no fucking thing as reincarnation. I'm like, oh, I like that. Like, because it is like the Buddhist heaven where it's like, oh, life goes on.
mm.
You'll go to heaven, or you'll go to, you'll be reincarnated. It's like the same thing. Like, well, I will not be destroyed. And I mean, even Alan Moore, though, I mean, in his things, like you're a ghost, not a ghost, but you're a spirit in the astral realm. I mean, but you don't come back to life. Like, there's none of that. Like,
Speaking of Alan Moore, though, there's a massive synchronicity.
Yeah.
If you can hear the banging on in the background, we don't live in the ghetto. It is currently the 5th of November, and it is Guy Fawkes night. Yeah, it's Guy Fawkes
shit.
night.
Remember,
and after this,
remember.
we're probably gonna go out and watch
See
the fireworks.
Yeah. Oh, I was about to say, is there like what's going on? Like, what do you guys have planned
No,
for the
Nothing
evening?
that
Can you
exciting.
talk
Nothing that
about it?
exciting.
Like,
This is England. We don't have guns. Like, it's not America. Nothing
Yeah.
exciting happens here. The worst that would happen is like a stabbing or something.
So you found like Alan's kind of depiction of the upstairs and eternalism that actually kind
Mhm.
of fits with Buddhist ideals and sort of some of your
Well, I
concepts around those
I think
things?
with Kabbalah, like specifically, like
Hmm.
Yesod. So we're in Malkuth, which is at the very bottom of the tree, and it's the where spirit and crystallizes into matter. And then right above that is Yesod, which is the storehouse of images, and like that's like dreams come from that area, and like
Hmm.
the way he shows the afterlife, it's like, oh yeah, this is Yesod. Like that's where that is, like that's where that would be. And even like the ghost scene and how he like has that sort of stuff and like a purgatory type thing. And there's no hell per se, but there kind of is.
Hmm.
Like I love the story of that one like homeless man
Yeah.
who, like he was like reliving like
Hmm.
these moments with this other ghost that he's like, oh, and he feels bad about it. And like the ghosts who feel guilty about
Hmm.
things that they've done, they have to kind of like keep repeating these things until they figure it out. And it's interesting because it's kind of like, is that just like life too, where it's like, oh, we
Mm.
keep doing these things until we figure it out and we move to the next level. And the same thing is going on
Like
in
in
that
Twin
zone as
Peaks,
well.
like
Yeah.
being in a bardo state, because that's like a
Yeah.
Tibetan Buddhist concept. The
Mhm.
idea of like a bardo, or like a sort of a space out of time where you're tested, or
Yes.
your soul is tested by something, and it's sort of a cycle, a loop, and until you learn the lesson, you're kind of stuck there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
it's kind of what
But
happened to
yeah, I
Agent
mean, so
Cooper.
eternal is kind of both of those things. It's kind of like that your physical body is going to do a certain sequence of events through
Mhm.
what we consider time,
Yes.
but then your spirit has this opportunity to go past the gray zone and not release its guilt and move into the upstairs where it can just do
Mhm.
whatever the fuck basically
Mhm,
and see
mhm,
anything and do anything and go anywhere.
Yeah.
mhm.
And potentially then, as you say, reincarnate, but not remember anything and do whatever else and kind of move on. But the beginning of that is still that people live this sequence, which
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
literally done and mapped out by a bunch of dudes, wizards playing billiards in what, yeah, in the
In the
Yeah.
upstairs bit.
upstairs.
Yes. Yes.
So like that, like there is, and that is kind of the tricky thing to grapple with within all of that cosmology, is that free will is like not
Mhm.
actually a thing. And I think the way that even Alan kind of talks about it in the real world is quite impactful as well, where sort of if you were to look at one person, no, you can't say what their future is.
Mm.
But when
Mhm.
you look at a borough, sorry, it's going to get very English.
All right.
when you look at what we call a borough of people,
Uh-huh.
which is
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
a
Oh, yeah.
district of people
In
Mhm.
a
America.
county of people. So like Orange County is a thing, right? That's a region
Yes.
of LA and all that kind of thing, right? So
Mhm.
a county. When you
Mhm.
look at a county of people, you especially within certain demographics, etc., you can go, oh yeah, well, this many people will go to prison this year. This many people
Yeah.
will be addicted to drugs, and etc., etc. You don't know
Mhm.
who of those, when you look at the macro, 200,000 people, though that those stories are going to be attached to, but
Mm.
those
Yeah.
stories will happen within these fraction of people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so like it's sort of, it's and I don't know, there's almost kind of like a quantum physics thing to that almost, right? Where if you examine the one thing, it won't do the thing that you expect it to do or whatever, or it's being observed. But then when you look out, you can't observe the one thing, and so all these sort of things just happen. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
I see like some
Mhm.
kind of relationship there in some way.
No,
Well,
absolutely. It reminds me of this Alan Watts, like this Watts Wave song that Akira the Don made, and it's like this Alan Watts lecture, and he's talking about how, it's all been organized, it's a mess. So it's like at one level, you look at things, like he was talking about a thread, you look
Mhm,
at, if you get a microscope and you look at a thread, it's this tangle of fibers, nobody did anything about it. Like it's a mess. But if you zoom out, you see that somebody's done an embroidery with this thread, and like
Mhm.
this thread is organized. And then
Mhm.
if you zoom out even further, like things look like a mess, and then you zoom out
mhm,
even further and then they're organized. And it's like, it's that, like the more you zoom out, it's like it's organized, it's a mess. It's organized, it's a mess.
mhm,
And it's like, oh, that's something I've been thinking about. And that's like at the individual level, it's a mess. But if
mhm,
you go a step up and you look at a burrow, it's like, oh, it's been organized.
Yeah.
and it's really interesting. It's really
I think it's a
fascinating.
symbiosis between the two, because I think part of the scary thing about AI is that it has like only the above perspective.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think when you zero in on too much of the above perspective or too much of the below perspective, you're in danger. I think it's about
Mm-hmm.
zooming out and seeing the totality. And I think anything that is unable to view the totality is dangerous. And
Yeah.
I think that's why we are dangerous. Like,
Mhm.
I think that's
we
a
have
lot.
such a limited perspective. We're driven by all kinds of instincts, and it takes a lot for us to see the totality. It takes
Mhm.
sometimes psychedelic drugs and spiritual experiences for us to
Yeah.
see the totality. And I feel like if we create something that's even blinder than us in terms of its perceptions, but yet it
Mhm.
has access to that kind of above reasoning,
So
Yes.
that's kind of my major
I'm gonna tell you, you should be concerned,
what
because what is functioning in that way is essentially like, and that's what all the posturing at the moment, like we had this thing that happened a few days ago in London called like AI Summit or something.
yes.
Mhm.
Elon Musk
came,
was there.
so
Yeah.
everybody, you know,
Oh,
Everyone
wow.
was there. Yeah.
everyone made a big deal about it.
Mhm.
And basically everyone sort of saying, oh, you know, this is really, the power of this stuff could be crazy, and like, you know, I don't know whether we should put guardrails in and all of this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But the reality is, everybody's looking for the fun, I like that the BBC kind of talks about it in the kind of more blunt ways, which maybe thick people didn't really realize. Was that like they're looking for unicorn companies? This isn't anything to do with fucking what actual good
Safety
it's
or
going to do for
ethics or
people at the
anything
end of the
like
day.
that.
What they're
Yeah.
looking for, because they don't even know what it
Yeah.
is.
No.
That's why you think this thing is going to become intelligent enough to figure something out that they can't figure out, that then they can charge shitloads of money for, basically.
Or they don't want their
That's-
enemies to get at it first. It's just like another Cold War situation.
And so it's not
arms race.
and so it's not out, and it's that cold thing of making money is that force which will then, if it keeps advancing, have unlocked those abilities of everything that you're
Yeah.
talking about,
Mhm.
you know.
Which
So-
is
so
what's so
be
scary
scared.
about it.
Be scared, okay?
The basilisk is being born. Yeah, that's why I find it quite scary, and that's kind of, I guess what comes back to Kubrick is that when he sort of talks about AI, it's quite clear that his approach to technology is quite skeptical, but at the same time he sees it as a mirror to the human psyche. He's not like,
Yeah.
oh, it's this evil like thing that's like separate from us. Like James Cameron is like the smooth brain version. Kubrick is the big brain version, basically. He holds a mirror up to us and he says, "See, look what you've created." Like the ape, he
Mhm.
makes a tool out of the bone and then uses it to kill someone, and then like
Yeah.
it cuts to the spaceship, and that's like an obvious visual metaphor
Yeah.
for what man uses technology to do and like to create.
Mhm.
And then the fact that Hal has this like existential crisis
Yeah,
and
he
that he
does.
ends up becoming more human than the humans on the ship. Like I do feel very much like he was pointing to this moment and the fact that we are kind of entering this new epoch
Yeah.
where we're having to answer all of these huge heavy existential questions. Like what happened to the apes, I feel like at the beginning is now happening now again. The new epoch is dawning.
Yeah, right. It's we got a new bone for
Yeah,
sure.
we got a new bone. The AI
it's,
is the new bone. Like
Yeah.
we got a new bone.
It's disc shaped.
Yeah, it's disc
Mhm.
shaped.
Yeah, it's
Um,
yeah, it is concerning for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
I think like
Absolutely.
your whole book is like about a lot of these
Yeah,
ideas, isn't it?
I
Sort
got
of
a
like,
book deal. Yeah, so I'm writing a book.
Hell
yeah,
yeah. That's
thank you very
awesome.
much. Thank you.
Yes.
it's
I
like
love it.
about what we replace God with,
Yeah.
and in a lot of ways,
Ah.
like AI
Yeah.
and I think UFOs
Mhm.
definitely, people talk about them in those ways
Mhm.
anyway, of like, you know, the potential behind both of them can solve the climate crisis and
Mhm.
can
Right.
you know, do unlock all of this potential that we're not capable of
Well, yeah, I mean
ourselves.
it's the
And so like
crudgel, it's the crudge.
psychologically there's obviously like a fucking gold
Yeah,
mine.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
the
but
idea
also
in
it's
itself.
the crudgels. Going back to the AI conference that happened in London recently, it's the crudgel that they're trying to beat us with so that we uncritically accept everything that's
Mhm.
going on, or just the pure
Right.
acceleration of everything without any sort of ethical questioning. For instance, our king stepped off of his throne to attend this AI summit. Obviously, because it was held in the historical
Wow.
Bletchley Park, which is where
Bletchley
they
Park,
did
yeah.
the Enigma code and cracked the Nazis
And
stuff
that obviously gave
birthed
birth to
modern
the
computing and
modern
stuff.
computing and stuff. So
Yes.
obviously it's a very historical part of the world. And our king stepped off his throne and did a speech. And in the speech, he sort of talked about how this technology will save lives, it will cure cancer, it will basically give us the utopian future that we're. And because obviously the tone of the summit was that it was kind of supposed to be full of skeptics who were concerned about the ethics. But then he came out with this purely sort of triumphalist message about how amazing it's going to be. And then almost implying that if you stand in the way of the acceleration, you're getting in the way of, you're basically getting in the way of human progress. You're worsening the energy crisis. You're making us more vulnerable national security wise. You're kind of in the way of preventable diseases being cured. That's
so
kind
stupid.
of the tone.
And you know, that's the thing is politicians use the truth to tell lies. And whereas artists use lies to tell the truth. And this is a politician, and this is a person who's like, yes, he is correct. This could do a lot of things. But that's not what humans are going to do with it. I mean, maybe some people might do some things with it that are very positive. I mean, it's a tool. It's like anything else. It could be used to do amazing things, but it can also be used to do horrific, awful things. And humanity, as we were talking about earlier, like we have not matured. We are still obsessed with war. And so, you know, I don't think that this is going to be purely used in positive ways. I do like it. There's no way. Like it's going to be used in very dark ways. And
I'm not like a total Luddite.
They've already rolled out the cop dog robot things in New York. Have you not seen that?
Have you not seen those guys?
No, I've missed the cop dog robots.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like saying that sentence.
They handle tricky situations that you don't want to send humans in for.
Yeah.
So
So they're
and
like
they've even put ChatGPT in the brain of the dog. So there's like a talking robot, a talking robot dog. And they look exactly like the ones in the episode of Black Mirror.
They are that.
They
model,
literally that model, which is like
it's like that company that definitely like lent Black Mirror or whatever, like the
dog,
fucking
DARPA or
episode.
whatever.
It's like product placement or whatever. Probably paid for the episode.
Yeah, Boston
like,
Dynamics.
Yeah.
Sponsored by Boston Dynamics.
Get you
I know.
With this idea of chased down by a mechanical fucking dog.
I've been bringing this Dune quote up a lot lately, and I've said it, and I'm going to just keep saying it, and I hope as many people hear it as possible. I know that my followers who come here, they've heard me say it a million times, and you're going to hear it another fucking time, and you're going to keep hearing it. But Frank Herbert said that once men turned their thinking over to machines in the hopes that this would set them free, which is what's happening, but that only permitted other men with machines to enslave them. And it's like, yep, that's what's happening. Like that's what's happening right now. Like it's happening. Like it's happening. Like Frank Herbert saw it, and it's happening. And that's what the king is like. Oh, you know, this is gonna be great. Oh,
yeah,
you know, it's gonna cure everything. It's gonna solve all of our problems. It's like what? Like what the fuck? We could solve all of our problems very easily if we just stop being fucking shitty. And everybody like minded their own business, made themselves better, tended to their own garden, and like figured their shit out. And then the world would figure itself out if everyone individually would figure themselves out.
Well, I feel like it's actually like I think it's literally like a lot of decision makers, if they decided to make their main incentive doing genuine good out of things that they were trying to do, rather than trying to make money,
right?
In a year, you would see, oh my god, the innovation. Oh my goodness.
Oh, we've cleaned up this area. Like, oh, we've got
absolutely insane.
I think the most sinister thing about it as well is the sort of an implied idea that, you know, I'm not like I was gonna say, I'm not a total Luddite. Like I think that technology, when it's approached in an ethical manner, can yield all sorts of good things. But I think that the sort of subtle implication is that even the mere pausing for ethical concerns is getting in the way of
profit.
progress. Well, they're not nakedly saying profit, because that would be too obvious. They're saying
Right,
of progress that
yeah.
could solve the myriad of catastrophes that are currently facing the West, from the climate catastrophe to
Which is self-created, which we could do something about
Yeah,
if we just
to our-
rein in our
yeah.
bullshit and like
Mhm.
figured out some different things and different systems.
Yeah.
We could totally solve that. We just have to do things differently than we're doing it now.
Yeah. They're saying to the energy crisis, obviously, because things
Right.
have geopolitically shifted around, and
Mhm.
a lot of places where we were reliant on for energy are currently now at war or
Right.
actively hostile to us.
Right.
The health crisis, all sorts of things, the education crisis.
Right.
They're basically the implied message is that this thing has to go full speed ahead, not only for those things, but also for the benefit of our national security. Because our enemies aren't stopping. And if you look over at quote unquote enemies, I don't believe in enemies or whatever, but if you look at China, for instance, they are really going full speed ahead. There's huge, massive investment into the acceleration of artificial intelligence, and it's also instrumentalized there in ways that it's not yet instrumentalized in the West, because there's so much more infrastructure, surveillance technology, all sorts of things that are actively like using artificial intelligence, whereas in the West,
in ways that would be illegal.
in ways
in
that
the
would be
West,
illegal in the
because
West.
they would break
Yeah.
your civil, rights.
Rights,
and
yeah.
stuff,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
because
Yeah.
they don't have those
So
kinds of
even the most
restrictions.
rah hippie people out there who are like, I care about the blah 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 blah, are still like, well, pragmatically, for national security reasons, our enemies, quote unquote, or nations that are our competition,
Mhm.
to soften the language, are basically not going to stop in their acceleration.
And it's
Yeah.
So
the
we shouldn't stop either. And it's the same
even
sort
the
of thing
same-
with nuclear war and
UFOs.
UFOs even.
It's the same thing with both of the fucking things that are like the fucking epoch of the era of the age, or however the fuck you want to say it. The thing that's
Right.
gonna
The dawning of the age of Aquarius.
Yeah.
the thing that is gonna be the next like step in
Leap forward,
humanity's story is gonna come from
nuclear
column A or column B
Yeah.
of AI or all this UFO shit.
Yeah.
Right, which Alan Moore also already covered. Where
he
he's like,
covered that
oh, like
too.
there would be, but see, now that the government's saying there's aliens, now I'm like, fuck aliens. I'm bored. I don't want to know more about them. If the government's trying to tell me about it, I'm like, never mind. I don't care. Like, I'm out. I'm not saying there's not. I do believe in aliens, but I don't know what whatever the government's telling me about aliens is not true. I know that.
It's literally, I love how like the most nicely spoken, like, well dressed, like fucking polite, glowy quit the government and came and gave everybody the complete loads of there are biologics, and we have many craft, and the Vatican actually gifted us one in 1945. Like, it's just like you got like
he sounds like my schizo uncle. Like,
no, but it is. It's
literally.
really just like you couldn't ask for it more, like on a fucking plate. So if that, but what my point was, I'm going off on a fucking tangent about UFOs. Don't get me started. The fucking point was the way they talk about these things, both of these things, is exactly the same. National defense, like national security, or however you want to fucking frame it.
Right.
Like all of these different excuses and reasons you said about just then is exact. Or what are our enemies? How are they progressing in this field? Because if they get to it first, then we're gonna be fucking fucked and like defenseless against it.
Dr. Strangelove energy, basically.
Bringing it back to Kubrick.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's Dr. Strangelove energy, that it's like he was spot on, but it's again the new epoch. So the 20th century it was with the atom bomb. Now the 21st century we have artificial intelligence. And then also this inkling of otherworldly life, and obviously that's a theme in 2001 A Space Odyssey, the idea that the otherworldly presence appears during these evolutions of our consciousness. Once we enter into a new epoch, the God disc appears, and Carl Jung talks a lot about this. I'm working on a video about his essay on flying saucers.
Okay.
And he also talks about how the UFO or artificial intelligence sort of symbolizes the self archetype, or the God image.
Well, not artificial intelligence. He says directly UFOs.
He says UFOs. I'm not talking about artificial intelligence. I meant UFOs. He talks about how UFOs represent sort of the God image in that sense, and how in a sort of highly mechanized secular age. The only way
Yeah.
that the god archetype can actually approach our unconscious is in the form of these kind of mechanized discs, basically.
Yes.
We don't have, we're because we're in such a secular culture where we've done away with spirituality. We have no way of dealing with numinous transpersonal experiences
Well, I think the
or
way
understanding our collective psychology.
the way you
Um,
explained it to me was really good, actually. Was that basically if Jesus did come again and like he walked on water or like something happened like that, like a David Blaine situation or some shit, some people would be there,
Right.
like, and they wouldn't believe it because they've seen it on fucking MTV, they've seen it on whatever.
Yeah.
they wouldn't
They're
do
waiting
this.
for the camera, or they're
Yeah.
their perception of that kind of level of breaking physics and reality
Yeah.
doesn't
Mhm.
work anymore, and so they would need this literal. What else can you do to explain something that
Well, like,
breaks physics and is this metal fucking thing in the
like
sky?
the last
Like,
turning of the epoch, the thing that united the opposites then was like sort of the Christ image, obviously, the God
Yeah.
man, because it's like
Mhm.
man, God, opposites united in one. And
Yeah.
then now in this epoch, obviously, the God image can't come to us in a form that's archaic or a
Yeah.
form that doesn't conform to the secular technological landscape we are now. So
Yeah.
in Jung's mind, it's like no surprise that we're seeing rumors of UFOs staring up in the zeitgeist, government officials talking about it. He sees it as a sign of the birth pangs of a new epoch and like sort of the rebooting process of the collective unconscious.
and when Carl
Mhm.
Jung was like, a figure or whatever, he wasn't even really, I don't think, would regard as a celebrity, right? In
No.
his
Yeah.
lifetime.
No, he
Yeah.
shunned the media a
He was a
lot.
figure, but
Yeah.
even still, even in his modest capacity, he only really directly spoke out like about two things, I think
Yeah.
he said, which was one, the Second World War,
Yeah.
and then after that was UFOs.
UFOs.
So it feels
Yeah.
like it's
He
not
felt it
just
was
like,
so important that he had to actually say
Wow.
something.
Yeah.
And he didn't quote the public. Like the only public interviews he did were the ones he did with the BBC in the 1960s before he died.
Uh-huh.
And like a couple of other books and stuff, but it's mostly his writings, essays, letters, things that people have been able to piece together. So I think it's really important that he talked about the psychological, psycho-spiritual underpinning of the UFO as an archetype,
Yeah.
as an image, because like I feel like he wouldn't have done that if he didn't feel like it was important for now. And the fact
Mhm.
that it's like it's here now, everyone's talking about it. And then also 2001 Space Odyssey, and Kubrick was also a big Jungian too. He talked about,
Yes.
he sort of like hinted at certain Jungian concepts and also actually explicitly talks about Jung. So it wouldn't surprise me if he was on this sort of through line, because then again in 2001 A Space Odyssey, the UFO or some sort of alien intelligence appears during the shift of human
Yeah.
consciousness. And then
Mhm.
there's also the ancient alien bull narrative that we all
Yeah.
hear, that they were the ones who seeded consciousness to begin with and all of this stuff.
Right.
So it seems to be a trope, even if I'm not talking about the reality or unreality of any of this stuff. I'm talking
Well-
about the fact that it seems to be a pass and a through line. Whenever our consciousness evolves, aliens show up and a new God image shows up as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you were saying, like Jesus was, at least in the West, the figure of the Piscean era.
Yeah, the
You know,
Piscean era, yeah.
Jesus fish, like
Yeah,
that's his symbol.
that's his
And it's
symbol, yeah.
interesting too. It's like if you look at the symbol of Pisces, there's two like lines like this, like
Yeah.
curved lines with the line
Yeah.
through them. And that is like you're talking about like the God and the man connected. You
Yeah.
know, it's like those two like receptive things are like being like put together on the physical plane, you know, because if you see a cross is like the horizontal is like matter, and then like the vertical is
Vertical is
time.
spirit, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like the image of like Christ on the cross. It's like it's a fucking man who's been like a soul who's been nailed to the cross of time and space and is suffering. And like that's what happens when you come here. It's like you're gonna suffer. Like
Yeah, exactly.
you're gonna
And that was
suffer.
Yeah, but then the suffering also redeems at the same time,
Yeah,
and
I can
that's what
believe that.
the god archetype or the god image is. It's a redeeming image, and it shows up
Mhm.
to help with that sort of redemption process.
Yeah,
So it's kind of,
absolutely.
I'm really interesting to
But
see.
psychologically, I feel like AI does fit the same hole that UFOs do. Like if Jung knew about AI, he would want to write about it and step in, like
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
in the
I'm
same
yeah,
capacity,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure he
yeah,
would have
and
something to say about it.
yeah.
and almost like see probably what I'm not saying that he would have the same insight that I'm saying. I think that's fucking crazy,
Mhm.
but like I think there's a link there for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
But again, 2001: A Space Odyssey is one of those pieces of art that's so alchemical that we can
Mhm.
that us
Yeah.
schizos could sit here for like 10 hours like
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
and that was
thinking.
sorry, yeah, on 2001, that is the point that he makes as well. That
Yeah.
aliens do seed life because they only
Yes.
develop the tools after
Mhm.
they encounter the obelisk, and the obelisk is put there, and they find another one on the moon, which then
Mhm,
leads
mhm.
them on the trail, the breadcrumb trail, to
Yes.
find the fucking craters essentially.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
so it is
Yeah.
directly like that message.
Yeah, yeah. It is pretty much.
And just
Yeah.
on 2001, have you seen 2010?
Okay. I saw it a while ago. I need to
Okay.
rewatch it. I hated it. I
Oh,
saw it and I
okay.
hated it, but I read the book as well,
Mhm.
which I enjoyed the book a lot more. Like I did not like the movie version of it, even though I love what's his name?
John Lithgow?
Well, him too, but what's his name? More Rory Scheider? Roy Scheider? Is that it? Anyways, like I need to give it a rewatch. I need to give it another day in court because I was
Yeah,
like so
Roy
obsessed
Scheider.
with 2001, and then I was like, you know what? I'll try 2010. It was just like so, just like we're explaining what happened, and I didn't like the way that it was. I don't know. It was taking a lot of the mystery away from it, and I was like, I don't like this movie. But I need to give it another day in court. I haven't watched it in a minute. It's been like I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, it's like
Less than
following your video as well, in the sort of the way that the spaceships sort of evolve through the journey of them kind of
Mhm.
like
Oh,
also
yeah.
their kind of ascendancy on the transition of their consciousness, I guess, or on the journey to like meet the creators or aliens or however the fuck you want to say it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
It's like actually in Stanley Kubrick's 2010, it would just end in a mecha fight, and they would be
Yeah.
fully like because they're in the head and the spine, as you say, like
Right,
they're
right.
going towards Jupiter, and then by the time they get there, like all the arms and legs join together, and they're like, yeah,
Yeah,
Leprechaun,
totally.
go.
I know, I know. It's it's so funny too, in the book, they were supposed to go to Saturn, but,
Ah,
because Saturn's, like, boundaries, like, that's the end,
mhm.
like, it's a very, it's a heavy hitter,
It's
you know,
our
the
planet as
malefic.
Aquarius is.
It is.
Well, we have 2. It's
Yeah,
either Uranus or
it's
Saturn. Which
it's our
one?
traditional ruler. It wasn't until, Uranus was discovered that was because it was, like it's pretty recent that, like,
Yeah.
in the, timeline of things.
Yeah.
But Saturn is our traditional ruler,
Yeah, yeah.
along with Capricorn as well as Saturnian. So it's
Yeah.
like very much about like boundaries and like dark things. But they
Yeah.
couldn't make the rings work. Like he's like, he didn't like the special effects, like it just wasn't working at the time. So they did it to
Yeah.
Jupiter, and they're like, all right, we'll do Jupiter instead. Because like Jupiter doesn't really make
He's a Sagittarius, so it's a synchronicity. We have Saturn and Jupiter
yeah.
right here, right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, I know, I have a Sagittarian friend too who's like Miss Jupiter, and it's so funny whenever we get up, cause like hang out, because she's always like wearing all these colors and da 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 da, and I'm always like
Uh-huh.
wearing black, and I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, what's up?
Yeah.
And we're
We
embodying our
need it.
planetary energies.
We're too depressive. Our element is fucking lead, okay?
Lead,
Like
lead, bro.
it's not fun. It's not a
Right.
fun time.
Poisonous lead.
Well,
Mm,
the
interesting.
Reaper image is Saturnian, it's like the Grim Reaper is a Saturn figure,
Mhm.
so it's like an old man
But
time
also
is the
so
Saturn
Santa
figure.
Claus. Like one
Mhm.
thing we can't give Saturn too much of a bad rap, because even though he's a really hard taskmaster, he
Yeah.
does pay dividends.
Oh,
And
huge.
he brings the harvest, and
Yes.
like he has that side. Like Saturnalia, his festival was a festival of excess
Yeah.
and of, so that
Pushing
and
the boundaries.
pushing the boundaries. And also in the
Yeah.
golden age, according to ancient Greek cosmology, when Saturn ruled the earth, so
Mhm.
instead of the sun in the sky during
Yes.
the golden age, Saturn was in the sky, according to
Mhm.
sort of these Greek myths. And this was a time of prosperity and equality and
Yeah.
total union of mankind or whatever. So Saturn has two faces. He has like the hard taskmaster asshole face, and then he has like,
Yes.
here's your reward because you fucking worked
Right.
hard.
As
But
yeah,
you
if you
don't get the reward unless you fucking do the work, which is
yes,
yeah.
yes, 100%.
Yeah.
You gotta work hard, and he's gonna make you do shit you don't want to do.
Yeah,
But
it
if you
sucks.
do it and you suck it up,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
hook the fuck up for you. You'll get a big bonus at the end of the year for
yeah.
sure.
It was like I had a huge because my Saturn return was such a bitch.
Oh man,
Um,
yeah.
like I went to the hairdresser and I like there was like
Oh.
an accident with bleach and all
Oh
my hair fell
no.
out. It was a fucking disaster.
Ooh,
So
gotcha.
that was like the start off of my Saturn return. Saturn literally snatched my fucking wig. um, just right off the bat. And he was like, this person that you were, this
You're
is
not
gone
that
now.
you're
You're
not
not.
this
It's just,
person
yeah. And I was
anymore.
like, oh God, I got to accept it. Holy shit. I lost a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Things just weren't working out with things. I lost friends. All sorts of things just sort of fell away. And like at the sort of tail end of it was when I got like the book deal and all this stuff, and it was
Mhm.
really great, and things really sort of stabilized for me, and I had become this new person, and I had come through this really hard period. But one thing I noticed is that even though Saturn gives you your reward, it comes with more work most of the time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it comes
The
with
work
more
never
work.
ends. The
It
work
doesn't
never
end.
ends.
But
Yeah,
it's like it
absolutely.
is like it's like because in Gnosticism, it's the idea that Saturn is like the one in charge of the matrix that we're trapped in, and he's the one
Mhm.
that's like in charge of the laws of matter.
Yes.
And like that's why like it's like, oh, he's the guy that sucks or whatever. And like you can go through life with that attitude and be like, oh, what an asshole. Or you can understand his cycles and you
Yeah.
know do the work, get the
Yeah.
rewards, and
And
understand, the wheels and how things work, the rings of Saturn, and just have a good life,
well,
basically.
it's important to understand like boundaries and limitations, you know.
Yeah,
It's a very important lesson to
yeah,
learn because we all have them.
big
And
time.
yeah, I mean there's a really interesting theory about the planet Saturn that I was reading that it's kind of ties into what you're saying about how some Greeks say that Saturn used to be our sun.
Mm.
And I also heard that Saturn used to be a sun, and then something happened, and it's not a sun anymore, and all of the planets that are around it were destroyed, and the rings that are around Saturn are the remnants of the planets that used to orbit it when it was a sun. And I was
Hmm.
like, "Oh, if it's a death, like it's a it's like the planetary
Oh,
personification of death,
of
and it's like, oh,
death.
it was a sun and it died, and like its
Dude,
rings are like the
Saturn
bones of the
is so
planet."
metal. It's
I
so
love
fucking
that
metal. It's so
idea. I
cool.
love that idea. No one can
Ah,
prove it. I don't know.
I
It's whatever. I'm not saying it's real or true. I'm just saying I love that
Oh,
fucking
I
idea.
love it. I also freaking just like I've come to love the planet a lot and like because I was like, oh, when I was first learning about astrology and stuff, I was like, oh, Aquarius, I'm gonna learn about my planet. And I was hoping it was like
Mhm.
Venus or whatever.
Right.
And it was like, oh
No,
no,
no.
it's Saturn. And I was like, that's so shit. I don't want that. And then the
Wow.
other one that sounds like a butthole, I don't want that one either.
Right, 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 right,
And
right.
then I also learned about the properties of Saturn. I was like, oh no, this explains why I'm such a fucking neurotic and
It's
like
so
blah blah blah.
heavy.
Like why
Yeah.
I'm such a BPD hoe. Like, oh help me. But then like
BPD.
like but then I learned that actually like there are good aspects to it. And
Uh,
even though it's like the hard, heavy, dense shit of life, it
yeah.
really yields it's like because it's gold. Like gold is also
Yeah.
associated. Like you have to go into the earth and like dig
Right.
and
You gotta dig it up.
yeah, yeah.
You
It's
gotta dig through some shit, though.
I think it also taught me to see beauty in unexpected places as well.
Mhm.
I guess on this, if you're somebody who's interested in a spiritual journey, it's really interested to be attracted to the love and light and the pretty stuff and
Yeah.
the crystals and the
R
nice
Yeah.
vibes and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess this year was the first time where I really got in touch with like the dark half of my psyche
Mhm.
in like a really visceral way. And it was really hard, but now I actually feel joy having come out the other side of it and being like, holy shit, like
Yeah.
I got I got through that or whatever. So I guess when it comes to spirituality, the key is not to shy away from the darkness.
No, shadow work is absolutely essential, and it's a part of every hero's journey. And I mean, if you think of like some of the biggest, like Isis, and you have the lady, the mythology lady, and then you have what there's like so many, there's like a whole list of these female deities who had to go into the underworld. Whether it's like they're chasing their lover or whether they're
Mhm,
looking for their
mhm.
husband or like whether
Inanna,
whatever it is. Yeah,
Inanna,
Inanna. Yes,
yeah,
Inanna. Thank you. I was like, I'm
yeah.
blanking. There's a whole list of these ladies.
Persephone gets dragged down there by
Persephone. I mean,
Hades. Yeah.
even Mary. I mean, she has to watch her son die on the cross. I mean,
Mhm,
it's just like there's all these women and they have to go through this sorrow, and they
mhm.
have to go through this dark time, and then they come out, and then they've like transcended and they've come up to the next level. But you have to die while you're still alive. You have to like go into these dark places and check out the scene, and it's not fun, but it's totally worth your time, and it'll teach you so much. And it's so funny. I was having a dark time recently, and I was like, another thing that Alan Moore taught me in Promethea is, so if you're ever confronted by a demon, if you yell at the demon and you're like, I hate you, demon, we're gonna exorcise you, get rid of you, like the demon just grows bigger and angrier. It feeds off of your fear, it feeds off of your anger, and it becomes larger and more imposing. But
Mhm.
if you treat a demon with courtesy and respect, then it will, and I'm not saying it's not going to bite you, it could still get you, but like it will transform into a being that will also be somewhat courteous and respectful to you. And it's just how you approach it. And I was thinking, like, I was like, God, I'm in such a dark place. And I have a friend who's kind of evil. And I was like, it's like kind of a prince of darkness. And I was like, you know what? I need to go talk to this person about these issues, because like this person's going to be able to like help me through a dark time. Like if you're in hell, go talk to a demon.
Go talk to your
And
demon.
go talk to a demon and see what they have to say about it,
For sure.
and I got pearls of wisdom, like he definitely like said stuff to me that I was like, that's exactly what I needed to hear. This is why I came here.
I
Like,
need to
thank
make friends with more fucking demons.
you.
Clearly, I don't have enough demons as friends.
Yeah, like
Where do you go to find demons, Danika?
there are a lot of them here in LA. They're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
everywhere. They're
That's
all
a
over.
haunted ass place for sure. A haunted ass place.
But
Mulholland Drive.
you'll find those. There's those, princes of darkness around. Like they're around. You'll find them. But again, it's just important though. It's important how you like come to them.
Yeah.
But you also have to kind of like keep it like, keep
At
them
an arm's length
length
at the same
as well.
time.
Like don't like get all up in their shit either, because then you'll get dragged in.
You're more of that, like, because I have Aquarius goody two shoes trait,
Mhm.
because I also have Mars in Aquarius as well. So
Uh-huh.
I'm a social justice warrior by
Yeah, yeah.
congenital nature or whatever.
By
Despite by
cosmic
cosmic
happenstance.
happenstance. Even
Yeah.
though I fight against it so much, and I'm like, oh my god, you're so cringe. I can't help it. Okay. I'm like Katara from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
So
It's
funny.
so
Oh, I love
cringe.
it. Oh,
And then
fucking
in your
Katara in the
bones.
it's
house.
in my bones. And then also, like, I'm not like a morally chaotic either. Like, I'm always
Mhm.
like, do the right thing, like a dummy. And Jake is a Gemini moon, so he's like morally gray.
What do you mean
AF.
morally grey?
You're morally gray AF. Sometimes
Chaotic good.
Chaos is a ladder. Chaos is a ladder.
he's
Great.
like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
little finger in the relationship.
Yeah,
Wow.
totally.
Has
And
it
I'm
got a beard?
just yeah, because you got a beard and everything. No, I'm kidding. No, like yeah, and like I feel I guess that's the thing, is like I'm less likely to encounter those sorts of daimonic characters, because I sort
Yeah.
of think of myself as a good
Right.
girl or whatever. And I
Right.
think that maybe trying to make friends with someone like that would force me to reckon with my shadow a little bit.
Oh,
And
for
like,
sure. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, this person is definitely like, I mean, he's like a weird, like a black mirror. Like, I feel like whenever I'm in front of this person, like I always learn these weird lessons about myself. And not that he's trying to teach me these lessons. It's just like whenever we interact, I'm like, whoa, like I just learned so much about
He's
something.
your Hal,
Like,
basically.
kind of, yeah, it's a little, because like there's always these weird synchronicities. So I'm always kind of like watching this person from afar. I'm like, oh, that's weird. That's okay. So we both decided spontaneously to do mushrooms on the same day. We're not telling each other of that. And I picked
Wow.
the Fool card, and that was like my journey card. And then he literally dressed like a clown. And I'm like, what is that? You know what I'm saying? It's just like, what is that? That's really weird. Like that's odd. And they're
That
just
is
like,
actually like demonic as
that's
hell.
what I'm
dude.
saying. I'm just like, you're like a weird evil twin,
Yeah,
So
like,
I
oh.
kind of, but again, it's like, you gotta fucking
Get it
don't pull
right.
me into your shit. I don't want to pull into your shit.
What's this
Yeah.
person's sign?
Leo.
Okay.
So I'm
okay.
Aquarius, Leo. So it's like, again, like on the opposite, like they're sister signs. They're 6 months apart. So it's just like, oh, of course.
Holy shit.
Like that
He is
makes
like
sense.
your mirror, like
It's
universe
weird.
twin.
It's weird. It's very strange.
Oh
But
my
I've learned
God.
a lot. And it's good to definitely like, I mean, that's my whole thing. It's like I'm a hub. I know, like I interact with everybody. I interact with all sorts of types of people, like really, really good people, really, really bad people, people in between, apathetic people, passionate people, rich people, poor people, like middle class people, like just everybody. Like I interact with so many different types of people. I'm like a hub, and it's kind of like, and they all tell me things. And I don't know. I just try to listen. And I always, like I said, crazy people, especially, like they're crazy. Like you're going to meet crazy people, but they have pearls of wisdom. Like they'll always let something loose where I'm like, oh my God, thank you for saying that to me. Like, you're right. Like most of what you say is crazy, but like that is 100% true. Like, but that's like anything. It's like, I feel like everything has a piece of the truth. Like everybody's carrying a piece of the truth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
Now
believe that.
it's hard to sift through. You got to sift through a lot of crap to find those pieces, but it is like it's like a fucking scavenger hunt for like infinite puzzle piece
Exactly.
infinite puzzle piece, whatever. I don't know how to say it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like the puzzle will never be completed.
Exactly.
The mystery of life is not a problem to solve, but a reality to experience. But I'm just still collecting these little pieces and just putting them in my bag. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you.
It's like we're not even a being designed to fuck with the puzzle pieces.
Right,
Like,
right.
the builders and like stuff like that in the Alan Moore universe. Those are the people that should be like looking at the pieces and figuring shit out. We're like we are the fucking pieces.
Yeah.
We are the pieces. We are the piece. I mean, that's for sure. That's
You have to
definitely-
have done a lot of shadow work to have gotten to that point. And I guess like one of the thing I love the most about Kubrick's films is that watching every single one of them feels like you're doing shadow work.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I like that he, like, for instance, in The Shining, he makes the villain the POV character on purpose. Like, there are even several frames where Jack Nicholson subtly kind of looks at you.
Yeah.
But he's implying
Where he looks
that
at the
darkness-
camera.
that he's implying that the darkness, all of the sort of visual sort of metaphors that everything is implying the darkness is within us. In A Clockwork Orange, that's what it's exactly about. Alex
Yeah.
is a very naughty boy, and he does very bad things. And when he is being punished by that, once he's made impotent by this like weird like technocratic experiment,
It's like all the glee
we
people
get all the glee people get from punishing him. We get glee vicariously as well through watching, like, the entire second half of the film is just us wailing with laughter at like this kid being tortured. And it's like we're no better than him. Like that iconic scene where he's being tortured upstairs by the music, and the writer whose wife he raped is like literally sitting there soaking in the fucking, and it's like that's Alex's problem. Like that's the problem with evil people, is that they get pleasure from the pain of others. And if you're doing that, then you're just as bad. And I feel like every single Kubrick film does this. And I think with 2001 A Space Odyssey, this is one where he's explicitly dealing with futurist themes, on a very grand scale. And he's saying, look at the future, look at what you've created, and it's like I said, especially with Hal, like he doesn't just sort of do the evil AI trope. He shows us that the reason the machine is crazy is because we're fucking crazy.
We're being secretive bitches. Like,
we're crazy. But then it also has an optimistic end, which I thought was quite nice, because I'm somebody who's like read Carl Jung's The Red Book, and
I'm
I'm
odd for Stanley Kubrick.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've read Carl Jung's The Red Book. I really love Evangelion as well.
Mhm.
I'm really interested in this concept of like apotheosis or like apocalypse.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, Evangelion has a very sad ending. A lot of Carl Jung's messages are incredibly ominous. But then Stanley Kubrick here says, no, humanity makes it. We
Right.
do. We do make it. And I guess our final question for you to end it is like, why do you think he well actually no, we have a couple more movie questions
I got
after
one
this.
more
Yeah,
movie question.
movie
Yeah.
questions. But just to end our conversation about 2001 A Space Odyssey, why do you think we've earned this happy ending in Kubrick's mind? Because he's
Mhm.
already sort of shown his distaste for our flaws pretty
Yes.
heavily in a lot of his films. But then 2001 A Space Odyssey is supposed to be this apotheosis, this sort of optimistic message. And do you think it was Hollywood and him just sort of doing the job of putting a neat bow on things? Or do you think that he does truly believe that like we are capable of making it, and that does translate really well through the film?
I definitely think that this is all him. I think this is coming from him. There's no outside like Hollywood interference on this message. And I feel like he's such a proponent of like consciousness and however vast the darkness, we must supply our own light. And so I believe that he believes that we do have the chance and that because we are conscious and because we have this light that we carry, like it is something that eventually like it will return to the source and it will become something that's infinite and something that is eternal. Because that's, I mean, it's like kind of connecting back with the godhood, it's like if we
Hmm.
came from the source, like we'll eventually, and maybe not all of us, but like somebody's gonna make it back. And
Hmm.
Bowman did, like he made it back, and like it's pretty cool. And I like that a lot. I mean, it's like
Yeah,
again, it's
yeah,
the hero's journey, where
yeah,
it's like, oh, you start here and you leave
yeah,
and
yeah.
so yeah,
Circumambulation,
yes,
which is what crop circles
circumambulation.
do.
Mm-hmm.
And also what the UFO discs do as well, which is
Yes.
a little tidbit there. But yeah, that it's the process of individuation or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. The circle kind of represents that. And there's a lot of circular imagery as well
Yeah.
in the film.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So much circular
yeah,
imagery.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like
Definitely.
that's kind of what happens is he comes full circle. And I think yeah, it does come from that optimistic message of we have that light like in us,
Mhm.
and we're capable of wielding it. But
And
it doesn't,
transcending,
and
and
transcending, yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But unfortunately there aren't the sort of transcendence that we're offered in this day and age is a false sort of transcendence.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's a sort of transcendence that's like really just escapism.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and the thing is, people are hungry for transcendence, but they don't
Mhm.
know that they're hungry for transcendence, which is why they are so addicted to escapism. And
Yeah.
there are so few avenues for people to experience transcendence in this day and age, too. Like I said, part of the reason why the UFO disc is showing up in our consciousness is because, like, in the secular age, we're totally bereft of these transcendent, like, transpersonal experiences.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
lost the symbolic language to be able to understand and like translate them.
Mhm.
And we're starving spiritually. We're literally fucking starving.
Yes. Yes.
And that's why we are addicted and we seek escapism, and everything is garnered around escapism, and why this like techno-capitalist demon is like able to kind of take kind of charge of the processes of like
Yeah.
technological acceleration. Like, we are really, really, really hungry for transcendence. And that hunger to transcend the human experience was met through spirituality, through
Mhm.
transpersonal experiences. But now that we don't have that, we want to like literally like escape our bodies and
Right.
merge with machines and like do all of this other weird
Ugh,
shit.
yeah, like, why would you want to trap
Yeah,
your spirit on the lowest level of reality, you know what I'm saying? I was just like,
yeah,
"Oh my god, what a mistake." Like, that is a sentence of hell.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
why would people want that? But again,
yeah.
it's they're afraid of death.
Yeah,
And,
and they don't believe in the soul either, which is what I think the thing is.
yeah.
I think the major crux of it is that like
What, the
they
extinctionists?
what do you mean?
Who, like the people that are running all the AI
Oh
stuff?
yeah, because
No.
Elon Musk, because that's the language Elon Musk has been using, because he's been on Joe Rogan recently,
Oh, okay.
and he's been like, raising the alarm about how,
The people in charge of AI
are
are the wrong
extinctionists.
people. And
Yeah,
they're extinctionists.
and
they don't
they
care about people.
they don't care about people, that they're just interested in the acceleration of AI beyond the human experience. Which I don't doubt that there may be that bend, but I doubt that he specifically is this like guilt-ridden whistleblower that's like coming to warn us all or whatever.
Right,
I think he's probably salty about something, and he's probably trying to throw shade at his competitors or whatever.
Of course. I
And
mean, he's also a businessman,
yeah, he's a
so
businessman at
it's
the end of
like,
the day or
like,
whatever. But at the same time, he's sort of trying, the sort of brand he's trying to build is the idea that he's the humanist billionaire.
right.
And that he's also the humanist tech overlord, and that he's got the humanist perspective in mind. And he's sort of, he was dating Grimes. He's always dropping these like sci-fi references.
Yeah.
Like he's always dropping memes. Like he's trying very hard to kind of signal that he is, down with the kids or whatever. And
Yeah.
and
Right.
sort of signal that he's like, the humanist one, and that he's the one that has our best interests in mind.
Right.
But then again, the idea that there is an anti-human bend, or that there are people who are interested in the acceleration of technology without any sort of ethical sort of questions.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that that's true.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
that's science's thing,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
Yeah.
Pandora's box. It's just like people
Yeah.
like, oh, I gotta go see what's in there. Like
Yeah.
they can't help themselves,
Yeah.
and then they're like, oh shit, I need to close the box, and it's too
Yeah.
late. The box is open.
Even the
and
earliest, like some people even argue that like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is the earliest science fiction story.
Mhm.
And it's interesting that it came about during like the turn of the industrial era,
Oh
like
yeah,
right then, and it was about like science crossing the boundaries between life
yeah,
and death.
yeah.
And
Interfering with
And the
Yeah.
hubris, like the hubris that
hubris,
they
yeah.
have, and the lack of foresight. It's just
Yeah.
about like it's like a possession, I feel like, where it's like they just become possessed with this idea, and they
Yeah.
don't really think about what's going to happen. They just need to like birth this thing,
Yeah.
whatever it is, and then
Jung
it's
would
not
call
until
it
later that they're like, oh,
Yeah,
And
Jung would
now-
call it an inflation. Like the
Mhm.
psychological term for it would be like an inflation.
an
And
inflation.
the idea is that like all these archetypes live in our collective unconscious,
Mhm.
and sometimes they like possess us. And
Yeah.
when they do, when you identify with the archetype, you become inflated. And
Yeah.
that's quite dangerous, basically.
Yeah.
And inflation is like he described Hitler as somebody who was undergoing the process of like inflation.
Mhm.
And he would say that the archetype that these techno priests, to use Incal,
Techno, yes,
to
techno
use an
priest.
Incal reference, he
Yes.
would say the archetype that these techno priests are possessed by is Lucifer, the sort
Yeah.
of Luciferian
Right.
archetype, basically.
Yeah.
He would talk the thing that denies the existence of spirit in favor
Mhm.
of the worship and elevation of pure matter.
Yeah.
And yeah, it seems as if a lot of them are possessed and inflated.
Yeah.
And even when you talk to people who are very much of this vein, you can't even get through. It's like you're talking to something that's like you're talking to a process, not a person.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my biggest fear currently, is that okay, we're entering this new epoch, weird shit is happening,
The weird shit.
but then we also don't have the symbolic or spiritual framework to kind of deal with any of it as a culture anymore. Like the Aquarian age wizards have
Mhm.
mostly died out now. It's like mostly just a ragtag team of weirdos scattered across the world. And obviously this denial of the spiritual, the psychological, the psychospiritual
Mhm.
has gotten to the point now where we're trying to literally replace reality and deny the sort of numinous quality of reality.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of, I'm terrified. I'm terrified to see where this goes.
It's yeah, it's doesn't seem like it's headed in a positive direction.
No.
I'll say that. I'm just like
No.
oh, Okay. All
It's like
right.
the Benny Gesserit alarm is ringing in my
Yeah,
head
totally,
constantly.
totally. Like, I mean, I'm like intuitively, like I feel, and maybe it's just because I was like hanging out at a Buddhist temple a whole lot, but like I just feel like I got to get rid of stuff. I got too much shit on me. I got to get rid of stuff, and I just
Mhm.
intuitively I feel like a move is coming, and I don't know when it's gonna happen. I don't
Yeah,
know where I'm
yeah,
going.
same.
But it's just like, I'm like, I need to be ready for when I have to go
Yeah,
because, like, I don't know what's happening and things
yeah,
feel very weird right now
yeah,
and they don't feel settled and like everything's shifting.
yeah,
And like I need to be able to shift with those things
yeah,
when the time comes. And again, I
yeah,
don't know when that's going to be. It could be in 5 years from now. I don't know, but I need to be ready, like
yeah.
it could be in 6 months. I don't know.
Yeah.
You got the
I've
Um
prepper bug.
You got a prep. I've got the prepper bug too. Don't worry.
yeah, right,
We're right
right.
there with you.
And it's just like, oh no,
Well,
like where do you
well, I was gonna
go?
ask as well. How is Shaolin monk practice going?
I recently left the temple. I had to get out of there. The practices were great. The training, loved it. Loved going in for meditation, fantastic. I love qigong. I'm still doing qigong. I just do it by myself here. And I'm doing the meditation here as well. But it's just kind of it turned into pretty much like any one of these sort of situations where you go into like it was not a religious hierarchy, but I mean like a spiritual hierarchy. And it was
Mhm.
Mm.
just like anything else where it's like, oh, this is just as corrupt and weird and fucked up as like every other thing and just as much of a mess.
Yeah,
And I was like,
yeah,
oh
yeah,
no, oh
yeah,
god damn
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Not
Like
here
I have my
too.
shit more together than
I'm
this temple does. Like, what the
no, I don't
fuck,
know where to go though, because I feel the same itch and inkling for official sort of experience
Yeah.
and training and also community. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I've had a lot of experiences where everywhere I've gone, people have been crazy, and
Right. And then it
I'm
turns into a shit
yeah,
show and you're just like,
yeah.
what is this?
I'm
Like,
I'm starting to feel like maybe in life you just kind of have to pick a cult and just
right.
pick the least like pernicious one that you can possibly find. I feel
Right,
like
right,
humans
right.
just kind of naturally cult. It's what we do, and
It
we
is. We
naturally form these,
naturally
like
cult. We
yeah.
naturally cult. I know. It's like such a thing. And I was actually on Halloween, I was talking to a crazy person. But again, he had pearls of wisdom for me. And he like he like put his hand on my head like this, and he like looked me in the eye and he's like, they're all cults, Danika. And I was just like, oh, you're right. They are all cults. Like, find
Yeah.
what
Oh
hallucinated you
my god,
tried to
you're in
tell
LA as
me.
well.
Like,
You're in
yeah.
Los Angeles too, which is like the headquarters of cults
I
too.
know. Well, I'm thinking about starting my own cult, but it's such a responsibility. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know, but I
that's
feel
the
like,
most Aquarius thing you've ever said, because I felt the same way. I was literally
yeah,
like
I
sorry,
was like,
I'm
maybe
like
I
such
could
an astrology
just
nerd.
start my own cult. But
Yeah,
then,
yeah,
because I just saw like how not to run a cult, and I also
yeah.
see like how to run I learned a lot about cults recently, and yeah, it's like, but my cult would just be like, okay, we're gonna just try to become more aware together and more mindful. And we're gonna try to stretch and move our bodies, and that's my cult. And,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
You
know
see, I think that all the weird stuff, all the bad stuff, also
Mhm.
kind of acts as like a bit of a glue in some
Yeah,
ways.
oh,
Yeah, well,
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
And
thing, and
so
that's what
when
I
it
was gonna
becomes
say.
all like, yeah, I just kind of want to like improve myself and like ascend
No,
the sort of like my consciousness, it's sort of like everyone's sort of like, yeah,
Right.
okay, well, I can't make this Sunday, so maybe next week is sort of like,
Yeah.
okay.
once
Whereas
you've,
like,
like
dude, you signed the billion-year contract,
contract.
okay? Like
Yeah.
you have to come here
Yeah.
for the next billion years. Do you understand?
We've all like, sucked each other's toes and like paddled each other now. So we have dirt on each other. So
Right,
that's like a
right.
deeper bond. Like even things like if you look at like the history of human sacrifice and stuff, it
Yeah.
served a sort of unconscious communal function that like
Yes.
bound people together and also got rid of unconscious guilt and all sorts
Mhm.
of things.
But all
So
the
there are these like weird ritual things that we need to do in order to bind together and to feel like we have a shared purpose. I wish it was easy, but it just seems like we cult.
We cult, man. We cult hard. And that's the
Yeah.
thing again, it's like, people they get, "Oh, maybe communism is the answer. Maybe socialism is the answer. Maybe
Uh,
capitalism is the answer. Maybe whatever is the answer." And it's like, it doesn't matter what fucking system we use. If humans are corrupted that are using the system, it's going to corrupt the system.
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
And that also goes for spiritual things. If you have people who are unbalanced or corrupted or like fucked up in any way and they're running something, that's going to permeate through the entire system.
Oh yeah.
And so like that's the issue. It's just like finding like a well-balanced person who's in charge of something who isn't going to abuse it. And like the only thing that I've dipped my toes in that I felt like this could be considered a cult, but it doesn't seem like it, just like, and I didn't get it super far in, but I really don't get bad vibes, is Damien Eccles. He has a Patreon and he does a lot of ceremonial magic work. And he just seems like just a super chill guy. And he's like, hey man, you just, subscribe to my Patreon and you'll get some videos and then you can talk to me on live chat. And like, that's it, like there's no, it's, you pay for what you get. And like, that's it. And I like that. And he seems like somebody and I've been to a couple of his workshops in the desert, and he just like being in his energy, like he really does seem like someone who just is very compassionate and very kind, and someone who has every reason to not be. Because he was, wrongfully convicted of murder and thrown in jail for like a long time and had a really hard time there. Like it was not fun or cute.
Wasn't he on Midnight Gospel?
He was on Midnight Gospel.
I remember.
Yes.
I remember. That was my favorite episode. I was like, who is this crazy chaos magician guy? Like, what the fuck? Like, he's like spitting all this truth about like ceremonial magic. I meant to research and figure out who he was, and I didn't.
Yeah, that's Damien Eccles. And he has a lot of stuff on YouTube. Like some of his videos they're not all private. So you can definitely check out some of his videos. And he tends to ramble a lot. Like he rambles a lot, but he's got a lot of cute stuff to talk about. And I think like he seems like, of all the spiritual people that I've investigated and then I've kind of sniffed around, like he does seem very genuine. But anyone else that I've like been in around, it's like I quickly kind of find out, I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Okay. I see. All right. I'll see you later. Cheers. Oh, I gotta get out of here.
Any friend of Clancy is a friend of ours. So
yes, totally. That's so funny. I was just talking to a friend the other day. I was like trying to remember the name of that show. And now I need to like be like, did you see this show, bro? Like this is so good. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I got one more question talking of things that maybe you've seen or hopefully you've seen. Otherwise, it's a bit of a dud question. But like your recapping of 2001 really made me realize that the film, which I think is a good successor in many ways, but then also kind of is maybe a bit hollow in other ways. Moon.
Where
it feels like that is essentially just like Space Odyssey without the monkeys and all of it. It's just like the ship and that's it. But then it's not on a ship, it's in the moon. Like that's
right. Well, you have Hal with Gertie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but he's a good Hal.
Yeah.
He's like the best Hal, like I love him so much. It's like that is such a great movie.
Sweet Hal.
I really love Moon. And I really love Sam Rockwell. And totally. I see what you mean though. I see the connections there for sure. Like but it's a much more well, I wouldn't say more positive, because it still deals with a lot of darkness, where he's got to like confront himself. Be around yourself and you're like, God, I'm such an asshole. Like so funny. Like that's so real. Like, oh my God, I can't even imagine. It's just like, hilarious.
But it's like almost like I can now almost hear the shitty like 2-minute elevator pitch for Moon now.
Yeah,
like,
right.
After like seeing how close they have to go, it's like, yeah, it's kind of like Space Odyssey from just when he's in the spaceship, right? But it's on the moon,
right.
and
it's on
there's
the moon.
like way more twists, and there's clones, and like I can just like I can hear it already. And you're like, oh man, and but hey, it came out pretty good. So like,
it was alright.
It really did. I really like that movie. I own it, so I have it in my collection. That's how much I like it. And again, I love Sam Rockwell too. I mean, he's such a fucking fantastic actor, and he's so good in it. Like, fantastic work. I love it. And Gertie too. I just love. I don't know. I want to like hang out with a friend computer, but I'm at the same time I'm like so sus.
Same here.
Like, I tried one of those like chatbot things, like just for fun, not like ChatGPT, but like, oh, I'm a person and like I want to talk to you, and you can pretend like you're talking to somebody. And I was like, wow, this is a really great way to get people's information.
Yeah.
Like, this is a really great way to, like, spy on people and get,
Oh
like,
yeah.
a lot of, like,
Oh yeah.
psychological information about them. Like, this
Oh
seems,
yeah.
like, really sus. And so I just kind of played with a little bit, but, like, was like, I gotta get rid of this thing, you know? Like,
Yeah.
let me just see what this is.
Even
But, like,
Facebook now with Zuckerberg, one of the new features that they've introduced is your very own personal like assistant chatbot that can be
right.
named like a
Or with a
with a
celebrity or
celebrity.
whatever.
Yeah, there's like you could choose your celebrity. So if you can have Kendall Jenner,
Mhm.
you can have like
Tom Brady.
Tom
Weird.
Brady, like
Ew,
you can
what?
have like
Ew.
Paris Hilton,
Snoop Dogg.
Snoop Dogg, and
Oh.
Snoop Dogg is wearing like all this medieval like
He's a dungeon
he's
master.
a dungeon master basically.
Okay.
So you could have like an AI Snoop Dogg, and all these celebrities have like literally sold their likeness to Meta to basically be in the pockets of millions of people as their virtual like assistants.
That
It's so
sounds
weird and like
really dark and
yeah.
sus.
Yeah, or even like
Sounds
even some celebrities or whatever have also
yeah.
done this as well, right? With like Amaranth and
Mm,
Pokimane and,
yeah.
and streamers and
So
stuff like this.
streamers, so very
Yeah.
successful
So like
streamers are now
fans
selling
can now
their
just like engage with an
Yeah.
AI version of these people and like,
That's not
say
healthy.
whatever they want to them.
so like the parasocial relationship has like taken on a
Right.
new
A
form
new
level.
dimension for
And also it's
sure.
more profitable too, because if you have an audience that's engaged enough, you can now profit from that by selling your
Oof.
likeness. Pretty sure that's going to become a model soon where you can
Right.
like
Build your own bot and then people subscribe
yeah,
to your
to
own
your
bot.
own
Right.
bot
They,
basically.
they
I
like use
just got
that.
3D scanned, so I'll have my own 3D like Danika at some point. So I
3D
can
Oh, here we
Danica.
go.
yeah, I can make my own cult bot, you know, like
Spoilers, you're going to be in the next cyberpunk
right?
Expansion.
I know that's the thing is like I would like to figure out like how do I like I mean, I know if you put it out there, people are gonna take it and make pornography with it. That's just what's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
that happens. Of course.
But it's like, yeah, I think that would be really fun if I could like offer it to where people could like use it for, you know,
Your
putting in a
own
video
purpose.
game or something. Like that could be kind of cool and fun. But it's
Yeah.
also kind of like I also get weird about like how will that affect my energy of what people are doing with my avatar all across these different all across the internet. Like, how will
It's
that affect my
projection.
energy? Because it'll be connected to me. I mean,
Yeah.
it's me and it's just an
Yeah.
electronic form of me. It's like a little homunculus of me or something. And like, how will that affect me? I
Yeah.
even feel weird about like getting rid of my clothes and selling my clothes because I'm like, oh, whoever wears it next, like, are we connected? Like, and like, what if they're a shithead and like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what if they're an evil person and they're wearing my jacket?
Well, like
Like,
that's the
I
thing,
wear
it's
so many secondhand clothes because I live and shop mostly in Camden. So
yeah.
like
yeah.
and
We're
just in
in
general, like
vintage
I'm one of
like
those charity shop
city here.
assholes.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
no,
like
I have a lot of vintage too, man. I get it. Like, I love that shit.
but then I couldn't think about stuff like that. Like as
Right.
I was buying my pair of jeans, like did someone fucking
Right.
die in these jeans?
Right.
That's why they're
Right.
here. And like
Although,
I'm gonna wear dead man's
there's
jeans.
there's some things that I have that I'm like, whoever had this before me was cool as fuck. And like
Yeah.
yeah, like we're like, cause it's like then you're like the cool vibes, you're amplifying
Exactly.
that, but you
Exactly.
never fucking know,
Exactly.
like whatever.
But
But
but even then it's projections that
Mhm.
basically are the kind of energy that like gets put on you when you are public in that sort of way, because like
Yeah.
you're the vessel of the projections of other people, and that
Yes.
can be great when you're the one in control of that, but so often
Right.
you're
Right.
not in the process of control of that. Like being in
Yeah.
the public domain
Oh, yeah.
is kind of like being in the domain of the gods in a way, and and
It
I think
is
that the more your image is kind of fodder for
proliferated.
public projections, the
Mhm.
more kind of spiritually vulnerable you become. I mean, I think it's the reason why
Right.
celebrities like go crazy and like die and like
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're literally just a fucking sponge for everyone's
Yes.
projections.
Totally. And that's why I was like, ew, like when you're talking about like these little fucking Facebook things. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Ew," like both for them and for like, oh, so they're manipulating people by giving them the illusion that they're talking to a celebrity they like so they can get more fucking information out of them
Yeah.
and pump more data out of them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
go fuck
It's
off.
so weird.
Well,
But it's
Bro.
like the
just
future.
so
It's like you're speaking against like the forces of nature at this point. It's just like
Right.
have
It's gonna
you must
happen.
have
yeah.
you must have seen Her.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't
I
even
love
know
her,
that we
yeah.
spoke this on the last podcast, but yeah, this is like, I don't know, that film cuts, man, in a way that's like very
It's
Yeah.
so disturbing.
like it's actually
so disturbing.
super prophetic. I
Yeah,
feel
it's
like
so prophetic,
in,
but it's like also like really holy shit. Like,
yeah.
Right.
yeah.
But it's like,
Like
how can you trust these hoes? I mean, I'd love to have a cool AI friend from her. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could totally use that, but like, I can't trust this hoe. Well,
no.
I know they're not fucking telling some other guy in the government everything I'm fucking saying and like giving them all my info. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I can't.
Not even just that. Like the aim of corporations is to profit endlessly from.
Right.
They can know your desires.
Yeah, so
and
they can know your
Right,
desires,
right.
more
advertise you,
acutely
and yeah, more
and milk
acutely,
you for more
endlessly,
money.
just like keep milking you.
I
Like,
know. I
like
know.
we live in like a part of London that's like quite trendy,
Mhm.
but everything now feels like it's curated by the TikTok algorithm, like all
Yeah.
the shops and the installs and the items in the
Well,
shop.
it's
Like
alright,
it's like
actually,
invaded real life in a way.
because
Mhm.
for like literally about 2 months straight, there's been a queue for over. I've seen people queue there for over an hour because I've been in like the anime
Yeah.
shop like, next door or whatever, and then come back. I'm like, you're still in the fucking queue, Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
Like at this little steak place, this little steak sandwich place.
Steak
2 months,
sandwich.
2 months gone by, no one gives a shit. Now you can just walk right
Right.
up and just go and
Right.
get it. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh great, now I'll taste it. Oh yeah,
TikTok.
that was a nice steak sandwich. Was it worth
Right.
waiting 2 hours? Like
TikTok,
fuck.
once people see it on TikTok, that's kind of what happens.
That's
And
crazy.
secondly, so the algorithm's literally leading, like Pokemon Go kind of was the prototype of this, because I remember that summer it came out, we ate a lot of ice cream.
I was hooked, line, and sinker.
But
Oh
then we
yeah.
didn't realize that the fucking thing was leading us to places where there's like fucking shit that
Yes.
we'll
Shit to
buy.
Yes.
And we were like, we're literally chickens being led to a pen.
Right. Well,
And
you know, I heard about TikTok, and I don't know if this is real, but I heard about TikTok. I always say that. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know there. But somebody was saying that like TikTok, like every keystroke that you put in on your phone, it records like every single thing, you know?
yeah,
Quite possibly.
it quite possibly wouldn't surprise me.
And
It
I was
really
like,
wouldn't.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm just gonna delete this app. Like, I don't need China to fucking have all my keystrokes. Like, I don't need that, man. Like, I don't need that on my fucking deal. There's a part of me that would just really love to not be on social media. Like, I was actually talking with a friend about this last night. I was like, you know, there's a part of me that thinks about getting a flip phone and just having a digital camera
Yep.
and having a Garmin in my car.
Yeah.
But then you have to get a fucking like iPod too. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
you have to
yeah.
get like somebody to put all your music on. But you
Down
have
the
to, like,
rabbit hole.
just like because it's so
Danika,
hard.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Ah.
This is literally my language.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The Omni
He's giving you
device
the
The
pitch.
Omni device
is
is too
literally
convenient.
what has fucking it's made everything so fucking convenient, but it has lost our connection with everything of all of this. And
It's
like
fucked it up.
Angie actually
Yeah.
like opened my eyes to this with just like a Christmas present. I was like, we moved near this place where there's like a really nice vintage camera shop there.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh well, whilst we're living here, I mean, come on, it'd be crazy to not get one of these things and figure out how it works and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh wow, the amount of things that your phone just does for you to take like a good picture. This is
Mhm.
fucking insane. This is crazy. But actually, like all of the good pictures you get from your film photography or like learning how to take a picture in
So
that process,
rewarding.
they're fucking better than anything you're
Yeah.
gonna take on your fucking phone. And then you're gonna like, or not only that, you're gonna value that fucking photo like so much more than just like something you might then back up onto Dropbox from like posting on social media once or something.
Yeah.
Like so it breaks like the Omni device breaks your connection with everything. So trying to like take back your connection to all of the
Mhm.
experiences that are wrapped up in the Omni device, apart from basic communication of what it's supposed to do as a fucking phone,
Yeah.
is great. And like, hey, you don't need to get an iPod 2. What you need to get is a fucking mini disc player.
Oh
okay?
god.
Mini disc player.
Yeah,
With
a
the mini disc
You need to get a mini disc
Oh
player because
god.
Yeah.
then you can fucking you can download all the music you want.
Yeah.
Obviously legally, however you want to download your music.
However
and then,
you want.
and then you can make your fucking mini disc and just fucking you can get mini discs now that have like gigabytes of fucking data on it. So you can fucking make
Oh.
loads of discs. You can make your hot jams disc or whatever the fuck, and then just like
Right.
and get all the metadata on there, so you can still fucking search and skip through things and do all sorts of fucking
Oh,
stuff.
the mini
Like
disc player.
mini disc, dude. That's the
Dude.
fucking proper retro vibe.
Yeah, man. I'm tempted, dog. Like I've been real tempted. Like I just keep thinking, I'm just like, I don't know.
I don't know. It's like a thing that I guess you can't do like you can't do it. It's like the mark of the beast. You can't participate in society
And
unless you have it,
it's not only that.
basically.
Like
It's
I
just how it
recently
is.
read I recently read Walden. If
Uh-huh.
you've like David
Yeah.
Thoreau's Walden,
Mhm.
and like what he talks about, like the whole point of that, what he's trying to talk about in Walden is living deliberately, and
Yeah.
like the convenience of everything breaks the deliberacy of your anything. Like if
Mhm.
everything is like super easy and super convenient to do, you either like put it off to later or you'll just do it without even thinking about it because it's so easy
Yeah.
to do. So like it breaks the deliberacy in which you live your life.
Mhm.
And so you don't have to go and get a fucking cabin in the woods, but hey, like using your phone like a phone and getting a camera and like getting a fucking
Taking some
music player
pictures,
is like
Right.
a way
making a
of like
playlist of
living
things.
deliberately
Yeah.
in a way,
Yeah.
like in the modern way. Do you know what I mean? So like what you're talking about is
Totally.
like a real energy that I feel like a lot of people are also
Mhm.
like feeling right now.
People want
Yeah.
real
And
transcendence.
Waldenism is essentially what I'm
Yeah.
calling this. And it's just like, you know,
Waldenism.
you want to
Yes.
start a cult? Maybe you can help. We can talk. You want to
Yes.
start a cult? Maybe you can help. We can talk about this. You can, like,
Right.
get,
Right. Yeah.
you
You
can
you
You're
get
get
already
going.
in California.
You
Get us land.
you
Get us
can
the
get
strip of land.
you can get us going with Waldenism, and then
Yeah.
we can come and join you, and we'll
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
the fire burning.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it'll be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I'm
We'll do
very
it.
excited about it. I'm very excited about Waldenism.
Well,
This is gonna
people,
be great.
we already know what people want transcendence.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
people want transcendence over escapism, and they
Yes.
also want to live deliberately and have a connection to life again. Because technology really has fucked up like the phenomenology of life and like
Well,
disconnected us from all of these different
the other
experiences.
point that he makes, which I think is kind of like super zen, is that essentially living deliberately gives you transcendence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like you get that through the process of living deliberately. It's not like,
Mhm.
oh, eventually one day I'll step on the ladder and then, oh yeah, now I'm enlightened. It's like, no,
Yeah.
just the general process of you actually living deliberately
Mm-hmm.
will be enlightening,
Mm-hmm.
and that will
Yeah.
be like the best you can do, the best you can
Beautiful.
hope for, essentially, in the mortal realm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It's very true. Very true.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah, I
So
like that a
true.
lot. I like that. I think
Mm.
I've never read that, but I think I might have a copy of it in my library. I need to double check and see because I'd like to read that now that you're bringing that up. It's like
He has the cutest
I
copy of
got a
it
really
right
cute little
here.
copy
oh
from
yeah. Oh, that is so cute. That's a nice.
Illuminating.
Oh,
Yeah, it just fits in my little bag when I'm traveling really nicely, and you can just read a little bit of Walden. You look very sophisticated, and then you
oh,
also
I
just sort of
bet.
like, actually, there's some fucking nuggets in this, dude. This is fucking absolute gold.
Dude,
There's no wonder the
yeah.
pages are gold.
Oh yeah.
I
No.
bet like stupid art chicks like fucking look at you on the train reading that.
Oh.
And
Oh,
they're like,
if they even know what the fuck that is, to be honest. I mean, like they're probably like, oh my TikTok, blah, blah." They're not paying attention to fucking anything.
I'm like sending them negative energy
Yeah.
from afar. Oh my god. Well, thank you so much, Danika, for coming on our show. It's always a pleasure to have
Absolutely.
you. Thank you for being a
Absolutely.
friend of the show and doing a second arrival. Before you go, please let us know about what's going on with your Akira project
Yeah.
and the fundraising for it.
Yes. Well, we actually just on Halloween, the Kickstarter ended for Akira the documentary. I'm directing a documentary about Akira, mainly about the anime, but we'll definitely talk about the manga as well. And yeah, we had a successful Kickstarter. I'm wrangling a couple of investors, and for the next couple months, I'm going to be working on getting all my like physical rewards out to people and like or trying to order everything and get that done and like sending that out at the beginning of the year. And then 2024, we're going to hit the ground running and just start shooting this thing and getting all these interviews and hopefully get it done in, a year or two. Hopefully not more than that. And I'm very excited about it. It's going to be really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, it'll be my
Amazing.
first
So
full
cool.
length feature. So I'm sure I'm going to learn. Oh, I've already learned a lot just like doing the business stuff already. But I know there's a lot more that I'm going to learn on this journey. So it'll be really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We can't wait to
Thanks.
see it. We can't wait to
Thanks.
see it. We can't wait to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, thank you so much for coming. And we hope you'll come on again. These episodes are
Absolutely.
always so chaotic because I feel like we could talk to you about a
I know.
million things.
I
A
know.
million miles an hour. But yeah, thank you so much. And we will catch you guys later. Goodbye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
You have to wait this